Hey everybody, this is a 91 XR250L. Honda made these in the US from 1991 to about 96, I believe. So the XR250L is based on the XR250R, but this is the L model, being that it's got street legal, it's got lights, headlight with high beam, low beam, had turn signals, tail light and brake light, and mirrors. Whereas the XR250R was just more of a strictly off-road dirt bike. The transmission ratios, from what I've read, are the same first, second, and third, but then fourth, fifth, and sixth, these are geared a little higher, so you get a little more road speed and drop your RPMs a little. When I first bought this bike, being that it was a street legal model, it actually had these tires on it, which you can see these knobs are just a lot closer together. This is a Dunlop K750. It was a 90-90-21, and this was the rear tire, which was a King's tire, and this is a 460-18. And these tires did great on the road, but they didn't do that great off-road once you got in the sand and dirt and stuff. So one of the first things I did was switch to this is a Dunlop Sports D739, and that's a 110-118, and you can just see it's a lot knobbier tire. And the front, this is a Sedona MX 887 IT, I guess that is, and that's an 80-100-21. And these do much better off-road, which is, I primarily use this bike probably 90% off-road, 10% on-road. I did take the turn signals off. The fronts are usually mounted with a clamp right here, and then they kind of extend out. And I had broke the one on this side, and I had temporarily fixed it, but I ended up just taking it off completely. The rear signals were mounted right here, and I just took those off too as well, and I still have them so I can put them back on. I am missing the little tool bag that goes here. And one thing I did since I primarily was riding this off-road, I wanted to make it so I could take this tail light off. So I just used a little 4 connector, like a trailer connector, and so I can unbolt this, a couple of bolts under here, and take this whole tail light assembly off. And I may at some point get the smaller tail light like that the XRs use. The other thing I did do is it had the original muffler when I bought it, but the guy I bought it from had a good deal on these super traps, so I bought that, put it on. I did do what they call the Gordon mods. If you look that up on the internet, you may find it. I believe some of them are similar, but they got a different name for them. But when you take this pipe off, you can grind some of the welds in here, because the welds were really restrictive. So you just grind them slightly, not a whole lot, but you just grind them a little bit, both pipes, and supposedly it gets you a little more flow. These are removable. I have them on there for now, but you can, if you want to, you can take the rear foot pegs off, just these 2 bolts, take both of them off. The one thing on the super trap, I kind of wish, I know they sell it, I just haven't ordered it yet, but for the discs, they have one that you can put on, because it does get this muffler, or the fender gets a little black from the muffler. So they make one that has a little deflector, that it's only like a third of it, and that helps deflect the exhaust away from the muffler. It's never melted it or anything, but it just gets it black. I usually just wipe it down after each ride. So I've seen a lot of people lately on Facebook and some other different groups I'm in, they're asking about the starting procedure, that they're having problems starting it. And the 250s are typically pretty easy to start. I know with the 350s, the 400s, and even the 600s, you know, there's people that have specific starting procedures, and, you know, they're a lot bigger bore, so they're going to be harder to start. But if you're having a hard time starting it, I'll start this one in a minute. And it's probably been 6 months since I've started this bike. Just been busy, haven't had time to ride it and do anything else, and working on other projects and stuff. So this, I'm going to expect it to be a little difficult to start, but even at that, it wouldn't be something that I would mention to somebody and say like, oh yeah, it's hard to start. But typically, here's your choke, and I did replace this choke cable at one point, and you notice when I put the new one, it actually, when you let go of it, it just automatically springs back. So when I'm starting it, I do hold that out the whole time I'm starting it, and once it starts, I'll continue, you know, kind of gradually as it warms up, let it go back down. But they are pretty cold-blooded, so it will take a while for it to warm up enough that it'll just sit there and idle by itself. If you want, there is, I don't know if you can see it, this is your idle speed screw. So you can turn it, you know, a half turn, an extra turn, whatever. But then what will end up happening is once the bike warms up, it's gonna idle too high, so you're gonna have to back that back down. Your air filter's under here, along with your battery. It helps if your battery's charged. I do have a unifilter air filter on here, and you want to make sure that's clean. One thing I had noticed in the past too is with this cover off, the bike is harder to start. I don't know if it's just the extra restriction from having the cover on it, but you know, since these I believe they're jetted kind of lean from the factory, so when you give it the additional airflow, they do seem harder to start. So I would make sure you have that cover on it, and make sure your battery's charged, because that does help with the ignition, you know, right away. Otherwise you're going to be a few kicks to be charging up the electrical system and get it going. So let me go ahead and get my kids, one of my kids, to come out and videotape me, and I will start this up. So hold on. Okay, so the first thing, you want to make sure you turn your fuel on. So, and one thing I was always taught, anytime you always want to shut the fuel off when you shut the bike off, but when you change your petcock position, cycle it all the way through reserve and on. Otherwise they'll get kind of stuck, and gunk will get built up in there. You can kind of barely see it, but there is a little bowl right here that you unscrew, and that is, I believe, the only factory filter, so the dirt settles out here. So you may want to check that on occasion. A lot of people add a little filter here. I don't have one. I've never had any problems. Now, if you have the XR250R or any XR model, your choke is going to be a lever similar to this down on the carb. So only the L's that I'm aware of have the choke up here. So all right, let me go ahead and I'll show you how I start this thing. So you can come a little closer first. So here you got to turn your key on. You'll see your neutral light, and if your side stands down, if that still works, you have your side stand light. You're going to pull the choke all the way out. So when people talk about kicking it over and getting it to top dead center and stuff, I don't normally do that. I'll do it just to show you. All you're doing is you're kicking it real slow till you feel some resistance. So that's when your piston's at top dead center. So you're feeling the compression there. So a lot of people kick it through a few times and then find that spot, which that feels like it's that spot right there. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it a few times. And there you go. And that's after 6 months at least. But I do run ethanol-free fuel only. I run that in all my motorcycles, lawnmowers, dirt bikes, whatever, anything that you don't use off. So I'm having to hold that choke lever open to keep it running. If I let go of it, it's going to stall. So since, like I said, they are pretty cold-blooded, you're going to want to let it run at least a couple minutes. If you try to take off riding, it's going there it died. But usually, and I don't know, it seemed like it warmed up a lot quicker than normal. This is a warm day. It's I don't know, probably already 70. It's supposed to get to 90, but there it is. So that was hardly any choke and very, very low throttle. There you go. One other thing I was going to show you, I meant to mention earlier and I forgot. When checking the oil, let me take that. Thank you. When checking the oil, what they recommend on these, or the way Honda specifies, you, with the bike level, you take the dipstick out, you know, unscrew it, put it back in, but don't screw it in, just set it back in, pull it out, that's your oil level. So I know a lot of bikes, newer bikes, have a sight gauge, or some will have a little screw that you can unscrew and that's your oil level. But Honda, for whatever reason, I've even noticed this on Honda lawnmowers and stuff like that, they tell you the same thing. You unscrew it, wipe the dipstick off, set it back in there, but don't screw it back in. So you're gonna, you know, it's gonna give you a little lower reading than if you screwed it back in. So, but there you go. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you got any questions.